It was and still is the hottest topic in Montreal Canadiens hockey. The fact that Ivan Demidov is here in Canada. And despite the fact that we made videos yesterday talking about fans being at the airport and there being a big crowd, and despite the fact that Ivan Demidov's flight was the most tracked flight in the world, Turkish Airlines from Istanbul to YYZ was the #1 worldwide tracked flight on Flight Radar 24 live air traffic. Despite the fact that Montreal fans are absolutely something else, the fact is, Ivan Demidov is a crazy, crazy story. And now that he's here in Montreal, there is a lot of buzz going around about what's going to happen. In fact, speaking out about the airport welcome, this is what Marc Dumont went out there and said. Honestly, why would you care if someone uses their own time to go to the airport and wait for an athlete? Completely harmless. You know, I will agree with that. I know in yesterday's video I was a little bit critical and saying, yeah, like, you wouldn't catch me at the airport, but that's kind of just me. I'm a busy guy. I don't really have time to go out there and spend hours to go to Pearson Airport and wait there for a few more hours just to get a glimpse of a few seconds worth of Ivan Demidov visuals. But other people have time to do things, and that's what's important to them. So all the power to you. I was just saying, you wouldn't catch me doing that. But anyways, Dumont says here, I'd bet a nickel Demidov thought it was pretty cool, if not incredibly fanatical. But they're fans, so that also checks out. Marco D'Amico goes out there and says, I can confirm. So based off of this conversation, it actually seems like Demidov liked the welcome that he had received at the airport. So Demidov is getting a full taste as to what it's like being a Montreal Canadiens athlete. Seraphine Lampion did say this in the comments. I don't know about that specific instance, but one thing Hughes said about the draft is that he wants guys who want the Montreal pressure. The Lakers have no problem attracting big-time basketball stars who want to play on the biggest stage. Hockey players are usually more low-key, but there are some who want to compete under the brightest lights. I'm sure Demidov will thrive here. And you know what's interesting? When I see this sentence, hockey players are more low-key, but there are some who want to compete under the brightest lights, the name that for some reason comes to my mind immediately is Ilya Kovalchuk. How he thrived in the Montreal environment in his limited stint despite being washed and despite being on the latter days of his NHL career. I say washed, but he was still very good in Montreal for what he was. It's why he fetched a pretty significant return at the deadline. But anyways, because of all this Demidov stuff at the airport and whatnot, the Canadian subreddit went out there and posted this afterwards. No doxing or stalking players, and this includes tracking planes and sharing their locations. Hi everyone, there's been a lot of info flying around about sharing Demidov's flight info and where he's staying. Most of it is pretty innocent, the stuff being shared on Reddit is generally pretty tame. Some of what has been posted in the last 30 hours comes across as a bit creepy and shares more info about players than we are comfortable being posted. Just because someone is a public figure does not mean they are not entitled to some degree of privacy. There's a lot of unhinged and unwell people in the world. People need to be mindful of the safety of individuals. Moving forward, we will not allow the sharing of flight details, hotel accommodations, or any other details that non-consensually shares the details of a player, Habs staff member, journalist, or anyone else. What is allowed would be what the Habs players post publicly. Meet and greet locations, photos of them in Italy, details of them arriving to the arena, like the photos of them walking in the arena in suits. And this kind of puts a damper on what some Canadiens fans had been doing. Ultimately, I think it's a good move. I mean, I don't want to go out there and see people posting about hotel info. That's weird. That's really creepy. Even one of this comment goes out there and says, keep this for the girlfriend's photos too. It's odd, even more so than this. And ultimately, you know, I just wanted to open up this video by talking about some of the extra Demidov fallout because the topic that you clicked on this video for is actually something we have discussed before. We have gone over this trade idea, we have gone over this trade situation, but the reason we are revisiting this specific thing in this video is because Elliotte Friedman spoke about it on the 32 Thoughts podcast. This was from earlier this morning. Elliotte Friedman confirms the rumors that Montreal tried to acquire Trevor Zegras at the 2024 draft. The package offered to Anaheim was the 21st overall pick, which the Canadiens held onto, and they selected Michael Hage, and a young D-man. The trade fell apart when the Ducks picked Beckett Sennecke, and the Habs realized they could draft Demidov, so adding Zegras felt redundant to them. If you head over to the 2024 NHL Draft and you see the names that were picked, you will note that the Anaheim Ducks did select Beckett Sennecke in that third overall spot. Demidov was supposed to be a guy to go in the top 4, top 3 even, but the fact that Beckett went number 3 allowed Montreal to think, hey, we're going to get ourselves either Cayden Lindstrom or Ivan Demidov. One of the two is going to fall to us, so we're going to hold on and make this draft pick work. 21st overall would have been sent over to Anaheim in the process. Michael Hage is looking like Jack Eichel 2.0, so I think it's really good that the Canadiens held on to this draft pick. But going back over onto 32 Thoughts, this is what Friedman said, the transcript from the program today. I finally think I've got a confident answer on what happened here. So, Montreal was working on a deal for Trevor Zegras. They were trading for him and they were offering one player, I believe a young D-man, and they were offering a first-round pick. And it wasn't the number 5 pick. It was the pick which eventually drafted Michael Hage. And where I think that changed was when Anaheim took Beckett Sennecke. Montreal realized that Demidov was getting to them. And I talked about this with Eric Engels on Tuesday, and one of the things that Engels talks about covering the Canadiens all the time is that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they're very careful about redundancy. They don't like redundancy, and I think they felt if they were going to draft Demidov, then that was also going to lead to redundancy if they traded for Zegras. And it also makes me wonder if Demidov had been taken, I wonder if Sennecke was Montreal's pick. This is where we dive into player styles and how these guys move and how they play. Zegras is a skilled him up, kind of quick thinking, flashy guy. Demidov, you could say, is the same thing. But Beckett Sennecke, Cayden Lindstrom, these guys are bigger guys. They do have skill too. They have hands. They have really nice hockey IQ. But Beckett Sennecke and Cayden Lindstrom are not Ivan Demidov. They don't have that upper ceiling of offensive capability that Demidov has. The dangles, the dekes, and everything else. I think Demidov is superior in that respect. Sennecke and Lindstrom have size. They have motors. They have really big frames. And if Montreal felt like they were going to be taking one of these guys, then it's like, okay, they could take one of these guys and then trade for Trevor Zegras too, because Zegras adds that skill factor that these guys don't necessarily have at the moment. But when Ivan Demidov is available, you could take Demidov and you don't need to take Zegras instead. You can hold on to Demidov and be like, hey, this is our skilled guy. This is that player type that's already being fulfilled. You don't need to double down. So with Friedman saying this on 32 Thoughts, it does open a new perspective as to what was going on here, because initial reports, what we were hearing in the first place was something along the lines of the Montreal Canadiens maybe trading number 5 overall for Zegras, and that felt kind of weird. But now it's like, okay, they were going to trade this pick, 21st overall, as well as a young D-man for Zegras in a 2-for-1 type of deal. They would have kept 5th overall, and then they would have drafted whomever it was they would have drafted to Montreal. But because Ivan Demidov was there, they didn't need to make the trade for Trevor Zegras. They're like, okay, we don't need to get this guy. We can just get this guy instead. He's going to have a crazy KHL season, and then his flight is going to be the number 1 tracked flight to Montreal in the world. So with that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Elliotte Friedman's Trevor Zegras Montreal trade update, and how Ivan Demidov essentially stopped the Canadiens from trading for Trevor Zegras? That is a crazy sentence, but it's essentially what happened here on the program, and it's what happened at the draft 1 year ago. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.